Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Welcome to Harnessing AI, a webinar series. Today, we're joined by Jabra. Very excited about this one. We'll have Sephton Paul joining. I hope he hasn't been in the green room so far, but let's see him. And then we have Michel Bouman today joining. All right. So every webinar, I try to give you some, insightful statistics, and I know Michel knows a lot more about these ones than I do. But just to outline the need of having a converged communication strategy and making sure that you're aligning yourself to the best way of working. So 73% of employees want remote options to continue, so that's positive, right? Hybrid work is here to stay. But 67% of them, they want more in-person collaboration. This is what we call the hybrid work paradox, right? There is no one-size-fits-all. It's how you know where you're working, how you're working, and how you optimize spaces, and AI will be a driver in that. And this is also one that leads perfectly into all the, let's say, evolutions that are happening with Copilot into Microsoft Teams room spaces and into Microsoft Teams as a whole, right? Meeting fatigue, a lot of meetings are happening, but let's say if you have clear follow-up, clear agenda items, it makes it so much more comfortable. And at one point you might even prioritize the right meetings with the right outcomes and get rid of the noise maybe. As said, Microsoft Teams is the let's say the hub that has everything inside, right? And then you have Microsoft Places, which is very cool to see, where you work and actually how you create that digital physical space in a way. And then Copilot, which is active in the entire, let's say, Microsoft stack, driving productivity left and right. Now, probably said already too much because Michel knows a lot more about this. I'm going to hand over to him. So Michel, feel free to to talk a bit more about Microsoft Teams rooms, places, and yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Sven, and thanks for having me here. It's always good to be here with my good friends. And thanks for the applause emoji. I appreciate that. It's always good to be here with my SYNNEX friends, and also being here with Jabra. There's a lot of innovation coming to rooms. For those that are unfamiliar with who I am, my name is Michel Bouman. I have the privilege to lead the channel team for the Teams and Devices business here at Microsoft for the EMEA region. And I think since last year, quite a lot has changed. I think if you would ask me last year what Microsoft Teams Rooms is, I would just say it's the best meeting experience you can get for your meeting room. Right? It has that one-touch join that we all became familiar with over the last couple of years. But I think since last year, Teams Rooms has really become a multi-purpose device. Right? It still has great meetings, but now you have the integration with Places, as Sven just mentioned. We now have digital signage on Teams rooms, meaning that if you have digital signage through Xogo or AppSpace, and we have a couple of more innovations coming there, you can now have digital signage in your meeting rooms without needing anything extra in terms of hardware in that room, which takes away all the dead pixels that you basically have when no one's having a meeting in that room. Thirdly, Copilot, right? There wouldn't be a Microsoft session where we don't speak about M365 Copilot, but you see the importance of Microsoft 365 Copilot in the meeting room itself. And then there's a lot of buzz around agents, and these agents are now also part of Microsoft Teams rooms, right? So it's really a multi-purpose device. Now, if you ever seen me or heard me speak, you've probably seen this slide where I speak about the three crucial user experiences when it comes to driving a successful hybrid meeting. And we know that in the region, about 2 out of 3 meetings have at least one virtual participant. First one is audio, right? Hearing and being heard. If my microphone goes on mute, this meeting is useless. I'll prove it right now. Right? That just didn't make a lot of sense because you couldn't hear a word that I said. And I think that's where, since this is a Jabra special today, I think that's where Jabra has a lot of experience as well. And I'm sure Paul will speak about that in a second. So good audio is important. The second one is being able to see and be seen. And that is not so much about 4K. You don't have to see me in 4K for an hour straight. That's kind of useless. The most important thing is that you're going to be able to pick up nonverbal cues from those that are in the meeting room. And there's a lot of innovation in Teams rooms when it comes to these type of technologies. So if you have a Pentacast P50 or now the new 40 VBS, you get all this AI on board. So you get IntelliFrame, in which everyone gets their own little square on the meeting roster, so you can pick up nonverbal cues that are happening with the people that are speaking. You can even do this manually, where you're like, hey, I want to use a specific camera so I can get the best view of the person that I want to see the facial reaction of. And the third one is being able to be recognized. Now, this is very important, especially in the world of Teams rooms and hybrid meetings, where it is important to know who said what on the meeting. And you need all the three of these to make sure that you run an inclusive and immersive meeting. I'll just give you an example of why it might not work, because what we started to create is what we call AI blind spots. I'll explain what that is. If Paul, Sven, and I are on a meeting and we discuss Project X, and everyone gets asked, how do you feel about the project? If Sven would be like, I love it, Paul is like, I'm not sure, and I'm like, I don't like it at all. If we would look at the meeting transcript or even ask Copilot what was discussed about Project X on that meeting, Copilot would say the people in room 1245 started to love it, then they weren't sure, and then they started to hate it. And what happened in that meeting, we don't know. So now you have to go back and figure out who said what, which takes away the purpose of even having a meeting transcript or having Copilot in that meeting. And that's why I'm excited that speaker recognition is available in Microsoft Teams rooms, both on Windows and shipping now on Android as well, which helps everyone to be recognized in that meeting. Now, the way, excuse me, the way that this works in a meeting is you need to upload a voice profile. And I think us here on this call as like-minded people, we need to make sure that our customers and their users are very aware of how to upload these voice profiles. You simply go to settings, you click on voice recognition, and then you read out like 2 sentences, and then your voice sample gets saved. It's also important to know that that voice sample gets saved within the tenant, and only you as a user has access to it. Not even your admin has access to it. And so if we get this, instead of seeing conference room 1245, which you see on the left-hand side, now we'll see, oh, Christian thinks that Seattle is the best city, while Sandhya argues that New York is the best city. So now we don't have to go back and figure out what was said during that meeting by whom. Copilot has been playing such an important role in people that have started to deploy it, that we really see Copilot as the UI for AI. And where Copilot is your personal assistant, agents really augment Copilot by adding skills and knowledge to automate certain tasks and processes. So the way that this works is you can basically now get intelligence on tap. Right? So if you need extra knowledge, you can say, you know what, let me just grab an agent and that agent can help me. There's even now a new type of organization that's stepping up. It's almost a concept of digital labor. And this new organization is something that we call a frontier firm. Now, what a frontier firm does is first, it knows that intelligence is now on tap, giving business a new way to scale. Second, human agent teams are appending the org chart, meaning that if you would look at an org chart of these organizations, you would see there on team one, there are 6 people and they have 15 agents that work for them as well. And then third, every employee will soon be an agent boss, really directing and managing the agents to amplify your impact and accelerate their career. And how these companies work, it's almost in 3 phases. So phase one is AI acts as an assistant, really to remove the almost the dormant things, the things that are less exciting about work, helping people to do that same work just in a faster and in a smarter way. The second phase is an agent join teams as digital colleagues, and I'll show you a couple of examples in just a second of how that works in meetings and in meeting rooms. And these agents really equip employees with new skills that help scale their impact to free them up to do new things and more valuable work. And then the third phase is human set directions for agents that basically run the entire business processes and workflows. And this might sound very futuristic. Really, it's not. We're already starting to see these companies arise And our research has shown that in 2 to 5 years, many companies will be frontier firms. Now we have many agents that are already available as stock agents in Microsoft 365 and in Teams and in Rooms as well. But there's one I would love to highlight today, and that is the facilitator agent. So if we look at meetings in itself, there are three big productivity disruptors, right? The biggest one is people running late, which is annoying for us because we have to wait for that person, but also it's annoying for them because they have to be brought up to speed. The second one is no clear next steps. And then the third one is no summarization of what actually has happened on that meeting. Now we can bring an agent into that meeting that is going to help us to understand all of these different things, and that's the facilitator agent. So this is in public preview for Teams right now. This is how it works. You simply add a topic. You tick the little box there to add the agent. You add an agenda because the facilitator will also help you to keep you honest and nudge you based on the agenda. And then once you're on the call, you simply toggle it again. Everyone will be notified that the agent is actually in the room, and the agent will start taking live notes for you. Now, not only will it take live notes and nudge you, it'll also write down all the action points. So if I'm on a meeting and I say, hey, you know what, I'll create the presentation for next Monday, since this, not only will it write down those actions, but since it integrates with our favorite to-do apps, it'll also show up in my to-do or in my planner app. And if we then look at the meeting recap in itself, you'll also see these AI notes right there. So no more do you have to take your own notes. Everything is there for you, and you'll be nudged on the actions that you take to make sure that these meetings are more productive. Now, this happens in the client, but it's also available now on Teams Rooms in public preview. Started rolling out in Windows. I expect it to touch Android very soon in the next couple of weeks. And the way that this works is you simply walk into a room, you scan the front of room display, and you add the facilitator agent to the meeting room. Now, this is great for those ad hoc meetings, right? Where you walk into a meeting room with 2 or 3 people and you just want someone to take those notes for you. You can enable the facilitator agent right there in the room on your Jabra device. The last one I would love to show you before I hand over to Paul is something that has made a groundbreaking difference in the way that I work. So I work on a very international team. I have people sitting in the Nordics. I have people sitting in France, in Germany, in the UK, in the south of Europe. I work a lot with people in the EMEA region as well. And sometimes, or most of the time, when I join like a business review in France, I'm the only person that doesn't speak English. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm sometimes kind of embarrassed, right, to say, can you please speak English just for me? That no longer is the case. People can speak in French, and I'll hear it in those people's voice, but I'll hear it in English. So it's voice to voice translation, but not only voice to voice translation in some robotic voice. It's actually voice to voice translation in the real voice of the people. Now, I would love to show you how this works. So let me introduce a good friend of mine. His name is Robert Carlson. Rob, maybe you can wave to the good folks here at TD SYNNEX and Jabra. Rob is from Sweden. He used to work on my team. One thing I love about Sweden is this concept of fika. It's the moment where everyone just relaxes during the day, enjoys coffee. I'll start the agent right now. Enjoys a cup of coffee and some pastries. But maybe, Rob, you can explain to the audience what fika means to you, but do it in Swedish, and then everyone will hear it in English. So whenever you're ready. Yeah, amazing. Thanks, Rob. Maybe you can wave again to the good folks that we have on the call today. Thanks. If you've ever heard Rob speak, by the way, what you're seeing is state of the art. So there's a delay of about 2 to 4 seconds before the translation kicks in. And that's because there is no voice profile of Robert available. So Robert, in this case, wasn't even in the Microsoft tenant. He was in a different tenant. So there's nothing stored in the cloud. Robert simply started speaking, and in the cloud, after 2 to 4 seconds, the translation automatically happened. Not only did you hear Rob's Swedish being translated into English, you actually heard Rob's voice in English as well as he was speaking Swedish. And that for me has been a big game changer. Now, as I close, and we covered quite a lot in the last couple of minutes, Teams Rooms is no longer a single-use device; it's a multi-purpose device. We're very excited about all the AI that is now available on cameras, also with the P50, the P50 VBS and the P40 VBS. Paul, you owe me for that plug. And but also the rise of agents in the workplace, I think, is going to be big for every organization. A question that I often get asked is, Michel, are we doomed? Are we going to be replaced by AI soon? Are robots going to take over the world? And I asked Copilot, how do you feel about this? And Copilot said the future of work isn't human or AI. It's actually the seamless collaboration between both that really empowers people to thrive. And I believe in that as well. Thanks again for joining today. Thanks for the TD team to have me. Good to be here with Jabra. And Sven, do I give it over to Paul now?
Yeah, Paul, the floor is yours.
So I'll be around for 5 to 10 minutes on chat if someone has any questions. But looking forward to hearing Paul speak.
Thank you, Michel, and hi to everyone today on the call. It's great to be able to join you and follow up from a really insightful and information-packed 16 minutes. I take it everybody can now see my slides. Please cut in at any point if you'd like to ask any questions or interrupt. I have a lot of information to get through, much like Michel, in a short amount of time, and I'm actually quite happy with his mention of the frontier workplace, because I will reference it now as well. So I think we're really in lockstep with that one. But by way of brief introduction, my name is Paul Sephton. I look after our global brand communications at Jabra. And what that includes a lot of is our future of work research with Microsoft and independently, but able to better understand where our work is going and what types of products we should be engineering to be able to drive innovation in audio and video for the workforce of tomorrow. So I'll be taking you through quick slides today. Firstly, a quick current state of play. I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone, but hopefully I'll be able to show you where we think headsets might go based off of the early signals that we see with AI today. How we got here, I think we've done about 7 pieces of first-party research, surveying thousands of knowledge workers over the past 12 months to really understand in depth what are the sentiments of knowledge workers today. What are some of the quick wins we might be able to get? We realize that change doesn't just happen overnight, and so in some instances we want to look at how can we quickly arrive at a better place, and what are some of the easy ways to implement? What might long-term winning look like? Why does visibility matter in meetings? And then how can we actually look at implementation over a 12 to 24 or 36 month time horizon? So I think I'll start off by looking at kind of a rapid fire 5 shifts we need to respond to. First one is that I think it goes without saying, but hybrid work is sort of the new standard, but it's really fractured. At the same time, meetings are too long, too frequent, and cognitively demanding. With this rise of agents in an AI world, we're seeing sort of different impacts across different industries and personas. With this, there's a kind of increasing scrutiny of trust, and I think this depends a lot on the future of privacy, authentication, and encryption. And at the same time, we're seeing, particularly with the AI research we've carried out in the past 12 months, that expectations are high, but execution is really uneven. So how can we look at that? So as Michel mentioned, we sort of see these habits and this evolution that might happen with regards to the way in which we interact with AI. So if we look at today, we have sort of human with assistant, and this is from Microsoft's latest work lab research. So I'm really sort of stealing with pride, but then adding on a layer of how Jabra might think about this change in the workplace. So right now, we might be sort of talking or typing to some type of AI assistant 10% of the time, and most of the time we're actually using is speaking to people. What we look at when we think about how this might shift is, as we look more to the sort of futuristic point of view on human agent teams, we might end up in an environment in which 70% of the time we're talking to people and maybe 30% of the time we're talking to AI. And we think that kind of right now it's 100% human initiated and 0% agent initiated. But as further autonomy happens in this workspace, we might see that 80% of it is human initiated and 20% becomes agent initiated. And then ultimately, as Microsoft is predicting, which we're fully behind, when you get to this human-led agent operated landscape, we might see ourselves talking to people a lot less and engaging with AI both in our personal and professional lives a lot more. So that might end up being 20% human initiated, but actually an agent is taking the time to communicate with you far more than today. So with that, we see this sort of big inflection point around what the headset value is and what talking to agents might shift for us. So we can see the sort of existing needs today with a headset for end users in a unified communications world, one in which we're talking and meeting with each other daily, but in virtual environments where you need a headset or some type of audio device to be able to enter that meeting space. And with Michel's demonstration of muting, we know how valuable audio is in this context. So we have core control needs, plug and play needs, and perhaps some audio considerations for people today. But in the future, how might this shift to something that's always on, where you need an agent to be able to be evoked or to invoke you at any point? You might also have multiple agents, and so you need to have this multi-context and multi-agent handling. There'll be AI access via voice. We'll have a 24/7 intelligent assistant. And I think one of the core considerations we have is how can a headset as a gateway shift to enable this need far more than it is today? And what might this inflection point look like for us? At the same time, the decision maker or IT needs are changing. Right now, we know that we need performance, we need reliability, we need security, and a full portfolio for all users. But in the future, you might see something where there's fleet insight and control from the cloud, where you can look at an entire landscape of audio devices across an organization and be able to see exactly where errors are coming up, what's causing them, how to handle that, and do your entire fleet management remotely. There's also security-first data handling considerations with things like always-on authentication, how the headset might be involved with multi-factor authentication, or what type of voice biometrics could give you that always-on access to an agent. And at the same time, we know that all of this has to be done within budget pressures. So I think to build off of Michel's view on where we might be heading with AI, this is really where we see Jabra's role in enabling a voice-first AI future. But let's kind of take a step back and look at where we are today. So we know that flexibility still remains a core need for all employees around the world, despite the fact that there is this increasing return to the office. We still see this settling 51% landscape of a hybrid environment. And the top 3 benefits employees are asking for is still flexible workspaces, flexible working hours, and flexible scheduling. And what I want to look at today is how meeting environments have changed as a result of that and what we can do, because the analogy that I like to use quite often is that it's quite difficult to plan a wedding if all of your RSVPs say maybe. And at the same time, I think when it comes to returning to the office, we know that flexibility is a core need, but if people are saying they might come into the office 1 or 2 days a week, that really makes it tricky to provision the number of meeting rooms you need, to predict those types of spaces, and to set yourself up for an office that employees want to come back into. So we know that at the same time, if you take away full flexibility or try and regain too much control on employees on when and where they come back to work, almost half of all employees have said they would quit if they were asked to return to the office 5 days a week. And with this shift, I think the thing that we've all taken for granted and we've seen fantastic enablement from has been this migration to fully virtual environments. As Michel mentioned, almost every call that we're on these days has some type of virtual participant. We know from our own research that 80% of meetings are now taking place in a hybrid environment. But the thing which always surprises me is that we haven't necessarily stopped to say, what happened to our senses at work when this changed? If I'm in a room with all of you right now, I'm able to read your body language, I can pick up on subtle shifts, I can hear a lot more and read a lot more from the room. But when we went into this digital environment, we lost that full sensory experience. And now we know that most meetings today rely entirely just on 2 senses, sight and sound. So how can we enable these to be as rich as possible? So I think let's look a little bit at how we got there. So if we take a zoomed out approach and not just look at meetings, but if we look sort of more at the entire employee landscape, we know that over the last 5 years, with these increasing time spent in meetings and the cognitive fatigue that we have with them, employees more broadly than that are spending time on tasks that drain their sense of productivity. We spend a lot of time, Microsoft's Work Lab research corroborates this, as well as our own independent research, but we're spending most of our time writing emails, attending meetings. And at the same time, when we are back in the office, we have this hidden enemy of noise. So we did some research last June, July, about 12 months ago on noise, particularly in the context of a return to the office. And we could see the sense that despite people coming back into the office and perhaps being invigorated or stimulated by being able to see people in person, almost half of employees surveyed who return to the office are feeling stressed out by noise in the office, and it's preventing them from being able to focus. And ultimately, the benefits of being able to come back in and see your colleagues are also the things that are disturbing people most. It's co-workers who are influencing the disruption that people have in the office. So how can we counter this? Because we know that at the end of the day, it's impacting well-being, it's impacting meeting experiences, and it's impacting productivity. So we wanted to look at last year, well, what's ultimately taking away from meetings? What are the causes of what people consider to be a poor meeting? Interestingly, we thought it might be more cultural, more to do with the way in which meetings are run. And yet it was still poor audio, poor video, and internet that are ultimately sabotaging collaboration. Most people in spaces just aren't properly equipped yet. So let's talk about the quick wins. I might be painting a slightly complex picture, or one that makes you think there's no positivity. I think there's lots of optimism in what we can do to win here. And the easiest thing is that small targeted upgrades like better audio, video, and workspace setups can deliver immediate and meaningful impact. So we asked employees, what are the things that will most make a difference to your meeting experiences and return to the office? Well, unsurprisingly, noise cancelling headphones as standard office equipment came in as a top request. We know flexibility is a core consideration, and so flexible work policies that enable people to work from home is still a leading concern and way that we can address this. And then I think properly equipped workspaces and meeting rooms is really the next easy step to be able to do this. You might be saying, well, properly equipping meeting rooms is not a quick win. It's a long-term one. It requires lots of budget. It requires lots of implementation. But as I'll get to in a little bit, I think there is a lot that you can do to make these changes more easily and more flexibly and with more future-proofing now. And that's thanks to a lot of the developments from Jabra and Microsoft. So I think the other thing which was interesting for us that we found out at the end of last year was when people are unable to find the right meeting spaces, they're plugging these gaps with less effective solutions. We saw almost 60% of 6 in 10 people taking calls from their desks. And I think if you're coming back into the office to collaborate, but you're in this situation where some people are still virtual, then everyone taking a meeting from a desk is really removing the benefits of being able to take meetings in person, even if you have a virtual contributor to that meeting. At the same time, we saw 1 in 3 people actually taking meetings from corridors. I think for me, this really stresses the need for better equipped and more meeting spaces. So at the start of this year, we decided to try and do some research to look at what are some of the long-term fixes and what are some of the strategies that we can do to best support people, not only now, but also in the future. I think for me, the most interesting takeaway was that most work is happening in small rooms these days, but finding a small room is challenging. We know that big rooms are usually well provisioned. If you have a board meeting, it's easy to find a space that can accommodate 15, maybe 20 people. But at the end of the day, there's a very small number of these rooms available. Usually most companies have at least one big fully provisioned room, but that's not really where real work happens. And finding a small room is what's really challenging. I think at the same time, we know that the best work happens in small rooms. We saw that from research at the beginning of this year, 73% of people said that collaboration is better in smaller rooms. They can focus more. They feel that there's more equal participation. They feel there's better team dynamics and trust among participants. And so ultimately, you're able to have better collaboration experiences in smaller meeting spaces, but the number of small meeting spaces available is just at a low point for us. So how can we fix this? Well, the only other piece of insight that I want to share with you before I get into the solutions is new research that we've just done with the London School of Economics. So 2 years ago, we engaged with the London School of Economics, and then again this year, we've engaged with them on new research. And what we did was we looked at what's the impact of being seen in a meeting room. So not necessarily if you're on the far end of a call and a virtual contributor, but what's the impact of being in that meeting room where most of your colleagues are actually around you and knowing whether you're seen or not seen. And I think this is particularly interesting in a small room context. So we analyzed over 15 million data points on video meetings. And what we found is that visible participants, those in a room, stayed focused for 1.5 times longer, enough to truly cope with the 30-minute meeting rhythms that we're so used to. And it can really help tackle the focus issues that we know that are, people's focus is diminishing more and more. I'm trying to keep everybody gripped so far, but I realize that it's really tricky to maintain focus. We're shifting from meeting to meeting, day in and day out. And I think, these days we have an attention span of about less than 20 minutes. And so if you know that you're seen in a meeting and you're fully visible and you can get that 1.5 times longer focus from all employees, then you really do start to see the benefits over time. And visibility doesn't just hold attention, it also doubles emotional expressiveness. So it's going to make your meetings far more alive and interactive. We saw that visible participants were twice as expressive than those who were out of frame and showed a much greater emotional range than those who knew they weren't visible in that meeting. At the same time, when people are seen, they actively participate more. There's less zoning out, there's more real conversation. We saw far less neutral expressions and more meeting reactions when people were in a call and they knew that they were able to be seen. And lastly, visibility is even boosting brain power. We saw that it drives energy, motivation, and sharper thinking in meetings. So ultimately, this is one that impacts your bottom line and increases collaboration if you know that everybody in that meeting room is able to be seen. So implementation. Well, I've given a lot of insight, but insight alone isn't enough. Implementation is really where the real change starts and where we start to see real results. So I think implementation is where better meetings and better business begin. We know that 67% of employees think that better equipped small meeting rooms would make them more creative and more comfortable. We also know that 70% of employees, and this is from 2025 research, by the way, think that better equipped small meeting rooms would increase their confidence to speak up. And ultimately, with the number of meetings we're in today, we need as much active participation as possible. How can we do this though? Well, with Microsoft Express Install, scaling should not be as hard as it is. But now, with Express Install, people can quickly and affordably transform small rooms into collaboration powerhouses. We know that no matter what the business size, everyone has small rooms. No matter how big or small someone's office is, there's a need for small rooms, and usually the option to use dead space and convert that into a small room. But we need to be able to do this affordably and efficiently and quickly to be able to equip these spaces into meeting powerhouses. Ultimately, most small rooms today sit unequipped, and this is a big gap in modern work, so it's time for us to close this. They no longer have to be costly to scale, hard to manage, or anything like that. They're essential for modern work, and ultimately, this is a big opportunity. So I think with Microsoft Express Install and Jabra, you can get these certified, simplified, and future-ready rooms. There's no drilling required, there's no fuss. You can just have smarter, scalable meeting spaces ready for how people work now. And the other piece of that is that ultimately, if your room needs change, if you need to provision your devices for different rooms or upgrade them, move them, whatever your needs are, this really is about having a flexible and future-proofed solution. And I think if we're looking to how you can even further enhance this with AI, it's hard to come in after the demos that Michel has done. But I think if we're looking at our devices and point on this, devices for all rooms and all users comes down to better AI experiences and better management for those in IT. So I think if we're looking at the agentic meeting room experiences and management, we might be able to, with 180-degree field of view and full intelligent audio pickup, start to see that a meeting room automatically adjusts the brightness when there's low light. It could have automatic zoom to make sure that if there's only one person in the room, that they're framed as best as possible. Outside of that meeting context, you might also be able to get insights around a room is messy or it needs to be cleaned. Coffee mugs have been left everywhere. Maybe the whiteboard is lacking markers and you can see that there's an upcoming workshop, so you can help with stationery supplies. At the same time, I think if we're looking at collaboration solution needs, the end user ultimately today wants to be able to walk in and walk out and have everything work. Even if you don't have a virtual participant, you want to ultimately be able to have that meeting room gather intelligence, take notes for you, send summaries out. And so that even if it's just 3 people all physically present on site, that using that intelligence space enhances the overall meeting quality, even without remote participants. We want inclusive and fatigue-free hybrid collaboration, and we want real-time meeting intelligence. From an IT decision maker side of things, we really are looking for meeting room insights. We're looking for interoperability across different UC platforms and room types. We want manual room by room troubleshooting, and we want to be able to process as much on device as we do in the cloud, so that ultimately there's more on device management, there's less latency, and we're able to reduce the load that the cloud is processing, because some of the processing is able to be handled locally. We know this also has big security benefits. Ultimately, though, we're looking for scalable, sustainable, energy efficient, and flexible solutions that are future-proofing things. So I think I've thrown out a lot of data in the last 15 or 20 minutes, but my key takeaways today are that small rooms really are the biggest lever for better office experiences. We know that only 3% of them are equipped today, and we know that visibility ultimately sharpens focus and strengthens teams. When people have enhanced meeting focus, you get teams that ultimately have stronger dynamics, trust, and more productive outcomes. Enterprises can now easily and affordably address this. And with the help of you, the great people here in this room, I think we can deploy cost-effective and future-proof solutions to meet this need. So thank you very much for the time today, and thank you for the insight from a team's perspective, Michel. It was really interesting to hear both sides of it. I hope that this has been able to add a Jabra lens, and not only from a video perspective and small rooms perspective, but also from a headset perspective, share our view on how we think devices and software can really elevate the future of work, not only now, but tomorrow. Thanks again for the time, and I'll hand back to you.
Thanks, Paul. Very interesting session. Thank you very much. I've picked up on a few things, which is really good. Good to see Jabra also leading in this. So in the interest of time, we still have a couple of minutes. I'm gonna. All right. So Maverick. So we're here for Maverick. The headset part very relevant, and you can find us for that. But the video part, we find it that more exciting as being the distribution business unit within SYNNEX. Now, fantastic hardware, fantastic camera audio solutions, but you need more in order to build that full room. So please know that we can help you aggregate the full solution, bring this to market with Jabra, but also based upon the user experiences of those specific rooms, also with regards to the room archetypes from Microsoft and signature room concepts and everything. So we can help you on that front. So we're here to support, right? And if you followed a couple of these sessions, I always pick out one service to talk about or highlight a bit more. Today it's about the sustainability topic. I don't know if it's the same for you at channel level, but we are seeing such an increased demand on sustainability demands in projects, the impact, the usage. As said by Paul, there's already a lot of technology inside the hardware that helps on building the story. But if you look at trade-in programs, recycling, upselling, these types of services we also bring available through the wider TD SYNNEX. So if you are in projects where we can be of assistance with you on that, please let us know. We're happy to have that conversation. Our global sustainability team is building out quite a lot of interesting practices in order to help our partners be more effective in narrating, let's say, this complexity sometimes in channel. Last but not least, so if you haven't done the training on the, let's say, Converged Communications Partner Bootcamp, there's a new technical badge that you can get from Microsoft. This is not a Maverick or TD SYNNEX-led initiative. This is Microsoft. It's a 2-day indulgence of what Microsoft Teams Rooms is from a sales and technical point of view. It's very relevant. It adds credibility, but also you'll take a lot from that if you haven't done it. That's my call to action. If you are in Denmark or in the UK, we're also doing some local sessions around Microsoft Teams Rooms and the technical enablement of those quite specifically. These are happening in June, so next week and the week after. If you haven't heard about this, but you're willing to participate, just let us know. And how can you do this, right? This is a QR code which brings you to a Microsoft form. I'll leave it on a bit longer, as I usually forget that people need the time to take their smartphones and scan this or make a screenshot, shift Windows S if you're on Windows, to then reuse it. But with this, you can have a reach out to our Teams call to action to visit our showroom where we have some Jabra technology, where we have Teams room set up. We can help you, but also if you have any business inquiry, we're happy to help you. And thank you so much for your time. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Michel, and hope to see you again very soon. Bye-bye.